Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to do a short addendum to Volume 4. In Part 4, if you'll remember, I identified the possibility that Maddox admitted to defrauding Harry's out of advertising dollars, and this is based on Maddox's allegation in the Lowell suit, as Dick is so aptly named. This is item number 28. I want to review this real quick. I guess this technically starts at item 25. Basically, Maddox is talking about Harry's, an online business sponsor, and he says that Dick encouraged his fans to troll through Maddox network looking for clips to take out of context. It's not actually true. As far as I can tell, I never saw Dick encourage his fans to do any of that. What I did see was some of the fans notice that someone on Maddox's network used a pretty offensive racial slur in context to an African American who was on the Dick show, a guest of Dick's and a friend of the show. This person on Maddox's network went ahead and used the N-word against him, and some of the Dick's fans took umbrage, we'll say, with that action, and they went ahead and reported it to Harry's. Now, I don't see anywhere where Dick encouraged people to do this, and as is typical for this lawsuit, Maddox did provide evidence, and had the opportunity to provide evidence of Dick doing the encouragement, and the evidence he provided was after the fact, when Dick was stating that it was, quote, it was on your network, Maddox, and then, then he says more hot goss would be coming. Maddox points to this as inciting his fans by explaining that more hot goss would be coming. Maddox, buddy, you can't incite someone after the fact. If this has already happened and Dick then says that more hot goss is coming, that's not incitement. And it's actually not a reward, because if you take basic English and apply it to the text of the evidence you provided, Dick is talking to you and Rucka, not to the fans, and he's stating that more hot goss is coming up, basically in response to your line. Because if you had paid attention, Dick had mentioned that he would drop more hot goss every time you did something stupid. So here, you did something stupid by trying to weasel your way out of the fact that your media network has a rather awful human being on it, who said something that a sponsor might be concerned with, and people reported it to Harry's of their own volition. Again, not at any incitement or direction from Dick that I've seen. And again, you have the opportunity to provide evidence of it, and you don't do it here. Moving on. It then says that item number 27, as a result of the foregoing, Harry's canceled its sponsorship on January 9th, 2017, based on the targeted harassment campaign, which again, you don't define or provide evidence of, but yeah. So item 28, and this is where it's interesting, you do say that prior to the campaign, Harry's was one of your largest and longest sponsors. We're going to get to that in just a second, aren't we? That your deal with Harry's was $45 per cost per 1,000 impressions, or CPM, which means that Harry's would pay plaintiff $45 for every 1,000 downloads. At the time of the harassment campaign, you were averaging 30 to 40,000 downloads per week. What are those at now? Based on 40,000 downloads per week, your lost revenue on a given week from Harry's roughly equals $1,800, and monthly totals would roughly equal $7,200. On its face, that's a nice, sizable economic loss that is understandably painful, and it's a good point. So I brought up the fact that if you, Maddox, had switched the RSS feed and you were basically defrauding Harry's out of potentially thousands of dollars for downloads that weren't actually earned. They weren't earned by you. They were earned by you and Dick in a separate show that you then switched over. And if you are talking about Harry's having all of these downloads that they're paying for, many of those downloads would have been for the other show, people who had not unsubscribed. And so that was possibly fraud. Obviously, I don't have access to your record keeping. I don't have access to any of the discovery that's forthcoming. So I'm speculating on the possibility that you admitted to fraud here. And I think you may have. You probably didn't realize it, but that's okay. But some people, in response to this, have been pointing out that that Harry's may not have been a sponsor from the beginning of the show. And so, some people have done some research and found out that the early episodes of the show were sponsored by Kendall and Hyde. And then Harry's seems to have the first sponsorship of episode 15. So I took it upon myself to research this a little further. I had taken your word for it. That's not going to fly in a lawsuit, right? Like, the opposing party's not going to take your word for any of these things. But as I'm not being paid to research your drivel, I, just took you at your word. Harry's being one of your largest and longest sponsors is a little interesting. I checked all of the episodes from the start of your show through January 9th. And I did a preliminary check of the website descriptions, in which you frequently list the sponsor of the show. And the opening line of your show is a big thank you to the sponsors, which is very nice of you, by the way. In that research, I found that Harry's appears to be the sponsor of episode 15 and episode 17, and no others. Which means that either you're not listing Harry's sponsorship in any sort of overt way, which is possible. I will quickly admit, I did not listen to 32 episodes of your show. Can't do it. That's terrible. I don't even want to think about that. So I did not do that. So it's possible that Harry's is listed in, somewhere in episodes 1 through 14 as a sponsor, although you don't list it on any of the show descriptions up until show 15. So it's possible that Harry's is a sponsor of other shows, but if my research is right, Harry sponsored 2 episodes ever of The Biggest Debate, which casts a massive amount of doubt on them being one of your largest and longest sponsors, especially since Kendall and Hyde clearly predates Harry's. And there are other more frequent sponsors like your Amazon page, which I think is a violation of the Amazon terms of service, but I haven't researched that. Whatever. I don't want to get into that. That's not my job here. None of this is my job. This is just my hobby. My hobby is kind of reading through stuff and laughing at when people get it wrong. So you have 2 stories here, Maddox. Either you have potentially defrauded Harry's out of thousands of dollars with false ad clicks from the earliest times in the show, which is what you state in the lawsuit, that Harry's is providing you up to $7,200 a month. And if that's the case, and Harry's was providing you $7,200 a month as one of your longest sponsors, I assume that means from the beginning, and then you potentially defrauded them by converting the RSS feed. If that didn't happen, and instead Harry sponsored 2 episodes, just 2 episodes, then their sponsorship was not worth $1,800 a week or $7,200 a month. Their sponsorship was maybe worth $1,800 twice if you got 40,000 downloads of those 2 episodes, unless you're going to come out and assert that episodes 15 and 17 were consistently downloaded a combined 40,000 times per week. I can't imagine that to be true, but that might be your assertion. I'm really curious, and I know I probably will never get to, but I would love to see how much Harry's was actually paying you and compare it to the numbers you provided in the lawsuit. Because if Harry's was paying you $1,800 a week, what were they buying? You weren't giving them ad time, so you may be defrauding them then, or you're lying to the court, which I think we've discussed this in previous videos. It won't go well for you to misrepresent facts to the court, and this will come out at trial. If you, I mean, you've asked for a trial, and if you get it, discovery will occur. You'll be required to hand over all of the documents. Dick's team will likely subpoena Harry's, and is Harry's? Oh gosh, I hate to look up stuff in the middle of these things, but I'm really bad at this. Harry's Razors is, let me see, Wikipedia. Harry's Razors. It's a New York-based company, which means that Dick's lawyers could actually, if they wanted to, they could issue a subpoena and force Harry's to provide documentation of all of their business dealings with the biggest debate, which would then show exactly how much money Harry's paid you. And if it's what I think it is, and if you only had them for 2 episodes, there's no way your monthly earnings were $7,200, and you didn't really set it up as a hypothetical, and that doesn't really work either. I mean, you could try and make the argument that, well, Harry's would have been paying me this much money, but to lose revenue, like future earnings aren't favorably looked at unless it can be tangibly linked. A podcast, I mean, podcasts tank all the time. I'm guessing yours has tanked over the past year pretty significantly. I doubt you even kind of implied that you were averaging 30 to 40,000 downloads per week. I bet that's dropped off. And in that case, Harry's would not be providing you the monthly totals. So what the court's going to look at is what Harry's actually paid to you. And if it doesn't match up with $1,800 weekly, and I mean weekly, not twice, not 2 separate weeks, it's going to look like you're lying to the court about how much money Harry's gave you. So, short video this time. I just want to clarify that I do not know if Maddox defrauded Harry's. I'm going based on his assertions in the document and what we know, or I shouldn't say what we know, the story we have heard about the RSS feed potentially being hacked. Or not hacked, converted, right? Because you prevented Dick access to the RSS feed by taking it for your new show. That actually might be criminal conversion or a civil conversion. Not up to me to figure that out. You guys have the facts on that. I don't. I have a secondhand story. But if that story is true, then you converted the feed and potentially defrauded Harry's with the downloads. The converse story is that you lied in your complaint to the court about how much money Harry's was paying you, which will go over wonderfully with the judge and should be easily contested by a discovery request where you'll have to provide records, and then by a simple subpoena to Harry's in which they'll have to provide the records as well. And when Harry's is notified of the reason for the subpoena, they might be interested in looking at that unfair business practices statute against you based on what they've paid. I mean, if Harry's paid you $3,500 based on 2 weeks of downloads, and that's what I suspect has happened, like if that's the case, then yeah, I don't suspect that Harry's is going to care very much. They really didn't lose out on you at all. I mean, $3,500 advertising on your show is a complete waste, in my opinion. But Harry's had made that commitment and then later changed that commitment. So if that's all they did, that's great. They'll be out of there in no time. But you lying to the court about how much money you lost, That's gonna be ugly, especially when the court tries to justify. I mean, first, as part of this claim, the court's gonna have to try and justify your $20 million demand with $7,200 a month. How many months is that? Let's see. Calculators. 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Divided by 7,200. You're a math major. You do this much faster than me. That's 2,777 months divided by 12. So in 231 years, your Harry's advertising would have come out to the $20 million of lost opportunity. Good job, Maddox. Good calculations there. And don't get me wrong, you request that $20 million following your actual statement that of the cause of action. Sorry, your cause of action involving unfair, deceptive, and misleading business practices. That's your 8th cause of action, in which you're talking about going after the advertisers and stuff like that. I assume, because again, you're not really good at linking the facts to your cause of action, but yeah, trying to get $7,200 a month to equal $20 million is a bit ambitious. But then again, this whole lawsuit is just full of nonsensical inconsistencies. So I'm gonna wrap up here. Again, good luck, Maddox. I hope either your fraud or misrepresentations to the court, or fraud of Harry's or misrepresentations to the court, whichever one it may be, do well for you. Or, in the best case for you, I'm completely wrong and you have discovery documents that'll show exactly what you say. I doubt it. And if you do, again, Harry's may want to look at defrauding you, because if Harry's isn't listed as a sponsor on any but 2 episodes, why are they paying you $7,200 a month? I mean, that's just nonsense. So good luck with that, Maddox. Have a good one.